Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. A former Brown University graduate student's 20-year grudge is believed to be possibly the motive for a mass shooting that took place on the campus of Brown University, and possibly a motive for a murder of a nuclear physics professor at MIT.
I also don't regret what I did. The man who police say carried out a mass shooting at Brown University and then murdered an MIT professor says he had no regrets and had no intention of apologizing. A transcript of the video confession obtained by ABC News details Claudio Manuel Neves Valente's thoughts in the hours before he took his own life in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire. An on-camera confession showing he'd been planning this for a long time. I am not going to apologize because during my lifetime, no one sincerely apologized to me, the transcript reads. I honestly never thought it would take them so long to find me, Valente said in his native Portuguese, telling the camera that the man at Brown University who had confronted him knew his license plate number, something that was ultimately key in identifying him. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News that a lengthy grudge was at the heart of the murders that stole 3 lives, though it wasn't directly addressed in that video. I already know that you are going to say that I am mentally ill, he said. That is all nonsense. I am sane. Valente said he had many opportunities to carry out the tragedies, but he always chickened out until the day he pulled the trigger. He said that he has no hatred toward America and that unlike some accounts, he never shouted anything like Allah Akbar. The shooter saying he'd owned that storage unit in Salem for 3 years and was going out on his own terms.
Now, a reminder tonight that 2 students were killed in that tragic shooting, as well as, of course, that MIT professor. The next day, 9 other students were hurt in this tragedy. Live in the studio tonight, Ariel Metropolis, WMUR News 9.
Now, according to reports, former Brown University graduate student Claudio Valente held a grudge against the school for over 20 years. And as he held that grudge against the school, he planned to participate in a series of crimes in the Brown University area, first participating in a mass shooting that took place in the engineering and physics building on December 13th that led to the deaths of 2 students and injured 9 others, and then went on to shoot and kill an MIT professor, Nuno Loriero, in his home in Brookline, Massachusetts. And after participating in this mass shooting and this murder of this professor, that's where Claudio Valente then recorded a confession in his native Portuguese. And after recording this confession in his native Portuguese in a storage shed that he basically had been renting in the area, he then took his own life by shooting himself in the head. Now, the police and the DOJ see the behavior of Claudio Valente as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the behavior that Claudio Valente has been participating in, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that Claudio Valente was one of these beta males who was living inside of his head, and as he lived inside of his head, he had developed a superiority complex similar to that of Unabomber Ted Kaczynski. Now, the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski was a brilliant mathematician, and as a brilliant mathematician, he basically lived inside of his head to the point where he couldn't function as a human being. He had all of this book intelligence as related to mathematics. Unfortunately, he did not develop the male life skills and survival skills in order to be able to function in the world, and as a result, Ted Kaczynski became one of these guys who wound up living in deep isolation, and as he lived inside of that isolation, he was living inside of his head, looking to go out and make plans to go out here and do harm to others in academia by making these bombs that were targeted at universities and airlines. And basically, he was again living inside of his head, thinking that he was superior to everyone, but ironically, as he was basically living a miserable existence. And the same thing happened here with Claudio Valente. Claudio Valente was another one of these beta males who was living inside of his head, and as he lived inside of his head, he had developed a superiority complex, and as he developed this superiority complex on Brown University's campus, he didn't want to learn, and as a result, what happened was he thought he was smarter than the professors at Brown University who were looking to teach him things, but he didn't want to learn anything because he thought he knew everything. And because he was feeling challenged as related to his smooth world, and was dealing with the realities that there were people who actually were smarter than he was, this is what led to Claudio Valente becoming extremely angry and simmering and boiling in anger as he withdrew from Brown University, a prestigious Ivy League school, and looked to go back to his native Portugal. Just 3 years into his studies, he looked to withdraw from Brown University and learn more about these subjects in science. He didn't want to learn any more because he thought he knew everything. But in actuality, Claudio Valente didn't know anything at all. And even worse, he showed that he wasn't willing to learn, because with many beta males, again, they think they have all the answers. And whenever someone comes and looks to challenge their ideas, it basically challenges their perception of reality, and it challenges the smooth world these men want to live in. It basically creates a world of conflict and obstacles that these men are too afraid to overcome. And because they're too afraid to overcome those obstacles and look to learn more about something, what happens with these beta males is that they just look to withdraw from society, and they look to harbor anger at the people who look to challenge them as related to their ideals and their ideas about reality. And that's the source, I believe, of Claudio Valente's grudge with Brown University. He basically was angry at that he was going to a college that was having the audacity to challenge the ideas that he had about life and about the subjects he wanted to study. That's what basically makes many beta males angry, is finding out, the reality that he wants to live in inside of his head is not true. And what they do is, when they're shown a different picture of life, that's where these men go from simmering and boiling in anger to basically growing to become even more frustrated. And as they grow more frustrated, they are angry at someone who, again, just wants to show them some different ways of doing things. And that's what college is all about. College is about you coming out of the world that you lived in into a larger world. But beta males don't want to come into a larger world. No, they want to stay in their smooth world, and they want to stay in that box that they were in, where they can be the master of reality. That's what Claudio Valente wanted to do, and that's where he went from a guy who, again, was on the road to academic success to basically stagnating in life. And as he stagnated for 20 years, he basically, again, simmered and boiled in this anger, sitting there instead of looking to build a career in science. What he looked to do is look to go out and destroy the lives of others, because this, when beta male's smooth world is confronted with reality, what these men look to do is look to destroy the world around them. And that's what Claudio Valente sadly did, that basically showed how sad a man he is, I mean, this man sat there for over 20 years with a grudge against a university, where a place of academic learning. And as he had this grudge against this academic institution and a professor for trying to show him something that would help him learn, he showed how beta males really don't want to learn anything at all. No, they want to live in their reality, and they'll destroy the world around them if their reality is basically shattered. And that's what this guy did. He went over to he spent his time, sadly, being pathetic in planning to take the lives of people in a mass shooting at Brown's Engineering and Physics building. Again, when it comes to beta males, these guys, they look to get attention through going out and participating in an infamous act if they can't become famous. And a lot of them are basically lazy, so they don't want to go out here and put that effort into putting in the work. And that's what Claudio Valente didn't want to do. He didn't want to put the work in learning about engineering and physics, so he planned to look to go out in infamy by taking the lives of people at the Engineering and Physics building where he participated in this mass shooting. Then he went over to take the life of MIT professor Nuno Lorio at his home in Massachusetts. That's what this guy looked to do because he couldn't cut it as a person in studies at Brown University. So he wanted to go out in infamy by going out in a blaze of glory and wanted to go out and look to participate in these murders, then go out and make this confession, thinking that this would be his legacy, thinking this would be a great legacy for him because he would be able to go out on terms where nobody could hold him accountable. Nobody could hold him accountable the way they held the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski basically thought he was going to outsmart everyone when he was the Unabomber, and then eventually what happened was they caught Ted Kaczynski, and after they caught Ted Kaczynski, that basically shattered his reality. He wasn't the smartest man in the room, and Claudio Valente also thought he was going to be the smartest man in the room. He thought he was going to outsmart everyone by participating in this mass shooting, then taking his own life. But sadly, Claudio Valente showed us how dumb he actually was because he didn't outsmart anyone. No, he participated in a predictable pattern of behavior that beta males participate in, because when it comes down to the beta male with the superiority complex, the beta male with the superiority complex will sit there and try to present themselves as the smartest person in the room, but sadly, these guys basically wind up outsmarting themselves and show how they are just like every other beta male in being their own worst enemy. Because Claudio Valente basically was his own worst enemy. He was his own worst enemy in that he undermined his ability to have success in Ivy League academia. Now, any other kid who went to Ivy League academia about 20 years ago, because we're in 2025, so this is the year 2000, I mean, anybody back then would have been like, yeah, I'm in Brown University, and if a professor tells me I'm wrong, then cool, he tells me I'm wrong. I'm going to go out here, get these academic credentials, go out here and get myself a good job, get my paper straight. That's what any critical thinking man would do. But this guy's ego basically was the thing that got in his way, because he thought, oh, I'm smarter than the college professors. Well, why are you in this school? That's the critical question I would have to ask, because if you're so smart, then have all the answers, then why are you in this academic institution in the first place? And that's why this guy couldn't hack it. He couldn't hack it as a man, not understanding that when you are a man and you're given an opportunity, you need to take the best of that opportunity to build yourself up. But beta males don't know how to build themselves up because they don't have any sort of understanding about having discipline and resolve in challenging situations. No, whenever somebody challenges a beta male's smooth world, that's when those men fall completely apart because they don't want to deal with the reality. And this guy couldn't deal with the reality that he wasn't the smartest person in the room. He couldn't deal with the reality that college is a place where you go to learn and learn better than what you think you know, because a lot of us think we know things, but we don't know anything until we get out into the real world. We don't know anything until we actually are among other people. And that's something a lot of beta males have a problem with, because, again, with academic beta males, they live inside of their own heads where they can be the smartest person in the room. But in the real world, people who are smart understand they know nothing at all. And the place you want to go is a school so that you can learn from those who do know better, because people out here have different experiences, and those experiences can teach you about a bigger picture of life. But these guys don't want to learn, again, about a larger world. Again, I'll repeat it once more. They want to live inside of their own heads. And this guy thought he was going to get over on everyone. He thought he was going to get over on everyone as related to academia by participating in this mass shooting and going out in infamy. He thought he was going to go out in infamy and be seen as someone who basically looked to outsmart everyone. That's what he was making the confession up for. He made the confession because he wanted to say he was superior to everyone, and they couldn't figure out who the Brown University shooter was. He wanted to make a statement to let everyone know how stupid they were, but ironically what he did was show everyone how dumb he actually was, because he wasn't as smart as he thought in any way, shape, or form. No, his behavior fit a pattern and profile I've seen many times as related to these beta males. These beta males basically have a predictable pattern of behavior, that an average guy like me who has less degrees than this Claudio Valente has. And basically, as I figured out his pattern, I figured out that Claudio Valente was not anyone special. No, he was just another man in crisis. Now, if you want to learn to identify the behavior of beta males and to avoid them and the danger they could possibly put you in, or help out a family member who is in this pattern of behavior, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com, and you can learn more about beta males and their dysfunctional pattern of behavior and what makes them a clear and present danger to anyone around them. And you can find that book, again, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me talk more about the man crisis going on in this country, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.